Good morning, everyone, from Chicago. This is Bill McHugh, the Executive Director of the Firestop Contractors International Association. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us this Tuesday, January 28th, 2020. Really glad that you've chosen to take some time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Today's program, we're going to cover a little bit of everything. Although it looks like the back to the basics, we're going to talk about the basics, yes, but we're going to talk about other things that are going on in the industry as well. A lot of new developments, a great FCIA Firestop Industry Conference and Trade Show in Miami, Florida, with some great technical discussion and a great celebration with fireworks, entertainment, and more. Our Lindsay Donnelly here at the office outdid herself with the planning of the party, and it was just fabulous. A lot of celebration, celebrating FCIA's 20 years as an association. There were many that said that the association wouldn't last a year, and here we are 20 years later with 370 plus members, company members from around the world, and we continue to grow our impact worldwide through trips, through technical discussions, but most importantly, through the relationships that we form with the many people we meet. It's part of an association's purpose, certainly in addition to all the things most associations do, which is technical knowledge, learning and education, exams and accreditation, inspection, FM and UL programs, website and all that kind of stuff. But remember that the associations tend to be where relationships are started by people who have a common interest in a common industry and then become friends, sometimes lifelong friends. That's the cool thing about associations. Also about companies that are members of the associations. Many of the employees of manufacturers, contractors, inspection agencies might move around a bit, but their relationships stay at the FCIA, and we're pleased to have that opportunity to do that. So before we get started, let's do a quick sound check. If you can hear me, raise your hand on your little control panel there. Raise your hand, that means you can hear me. If you can't hear me, well, good grief, then you wouldn't be able to raise your hand. So I'll just type it in. And off we'll go. So it looks like we've got some people paying attention, which means that the hands are going up left and right, and glad to see that. Got a good crowd today, and let's get started without further ado. So let's talk about the DIIM. Where'd that come from? Proper design, installation, inspection, and maintenance. Any item, whether it's a sprinkler, alarm, fire stop, fire resistance, and other protection features in buildings, if they're properly designed, hopefully by a professional specifier, installed properly by a specialist fire stop contractor, and inspected by a special inspection agency that understands what's going on as far as the installation goes, and then maintained, the installation is going to be reliable to work at the end of the day. Got a couple of questions that came in. Can I maximize my PowerPoint window? I have done that already on my screen in the, let's see, what are we doing? Whoops, it's showing the wrong thing. Goodness, my apologies. There we go. Now you can see. I should have taken a look at what the audience view was, because you were seeing my emails and everything else. The beauty of the internet. So now we're all online and you can see exactly what's going on. So who's the FCIA is what we're going to cover, a little bit about total fire protection, design, specs, codes, testing, installation, inspection, maintenance, and fire stopping for safety. I'm going to vary the presentation just a little bit from time to time and talk about some of the things in the industry as well. So the FCIA is members, contractor company members, manufacturer company members, Firestop consulting agencies, distributors, manufacturers, reps. That's the membership. The membership's company membership, and anybody at the company can participate in things at the FCIA. We don't keep things hidden behind a members only section, we keep it wide open for people to see. There are some benefits to members that we do keep in the members only section, but not everything. We try to keep the website open so that specifiers, building officials, fire marshals, and others can go learn about our industry at a very friendly site. Look for the website to be updated here shortly, launched in the next 30 days or less. What do we do as an association? We advocate for fire and life safety. We've got members that are involved in fire stopping and barrier management services. This barrier management services trend started about 15 years ago at the FCIA in 2006 and 2007, 5, 6, and 7. Our first barrier management symposium was at the 2005 Firestop Industry Conference and Trade Show in San Diego. We invited the door industry, the gypsum industry, the door hardware industry, the fire-rated glazing industry, and of course us in fire stopping. We talked about the whole barrier. Since then, many members have signed up for the Barrier Management Services section of the FCIA.org website member list. Those that are Firestop contractor members in the fire stopping section of that are all listed. Any FCIA member gets on in that Firestop section. But if you're truly a barrier management services contractor and you want to get recognized in lots of other places, take a look at that section on the website. As an association, we also believe in third-party accreditation programs for both the contractor company and the inspection company. We worked with FM Approvals and UL on the contractor programs and IAS on the inspection agency program. For specifiers, building officials, independent specifiers, fire marshals, we offer a free Firestop manual of practice, a free specification, and free subscriptions to Life Safety Digest. The Life Safety Digest is actually free to anybody that wants to get it. Just ping us on the email, and we're happy to get you a copy of that Life Safety Digest. FCIA as an association believes in total fire protection. That's effective compartmentation, including all the features of fire resistance that you see in front of you between the fire barrier, fire wall, smoke barrier, and what it's protected by, the fire stops, the fire dampers, swinging and rolling fire doors, and of course, fire-rated glazing. Detection and alarm systems are important to notify people to move in a structure fire or an emergency. We always ask at the start of an FCIA conference, where's the exits, and ask people to point to them. Sprinkler systems are also important, of course, and then more importantly, education of the occupants so they know what the egress system is in that building. Building owners and managers have to design, working with professionals, that egress system, and the building occupants and firefighters need to understand that egress system so they know there are two ways out of a building. We always used to joke with our kids that they ought to know two ways out of that college recreational place that they go, the educational and the recreation place. And now at age 30, they get it. So the DIIM, proper design, a specification written by a professional, a single specification, 078400 section. That's the overall section such that there's one offered. One specification section. There are several choices in master format. CSI and CSC develop master format together. There's several sections that can be used for specifications, 5 different sections. The question we always ask our architect friends is, do you really want to have 5 different sections to talk about the same concept? Do you want to use that much paper, that much disk space in order to describe one specific operation called fire stopping? Most of the major specifiers we know through Construction Specifications Canada, Construction Specifications Institute, most of the specifiers we know use that simple 078400 single specification section to put perimeter fire containment, joints, both head of wall, bottom of the wall, and then also penetrations, of course. The tested and listed systems, I'm not going to go through the test standards, but just know there's all kinds of different test standards that determine the suitability for use of the Firestop systems in specific applications. Getting some comments from people that they don't have audio, so I'm going to have to type a chat to people and see if they can sign on and sign off. So here we go. Back to the program. Proper installation to the by an FCIA member to the 2 accreditation program quality standards, which is the FM 4991 standard for the approval of Firestop contractors and the UL or the ULC qualified contractor program, of course by FCIA members. Inspection's huge too. The inspection to the ASTM E 21742393 standards by IAS AC 291 accredited inspection agencies that are also FCIA members. We've had our biggest growth, I think, over the last 4 years in that inspection agency group. We've got several inspection agencies from throughout North America and around the world as well. Maintained and managed, that's a big thing. We're going to go through that in a little bit and talk about the specifics of maintenance, because existing buildings, we believe, is where there's an opportunity to make sure that the fire resistance is going to work when called upon by fire. Same thing with smoke resistant properties of buildings. There's a lot of obligation in the fire codes to the building owner on that. We'll go into it later on. Proper design, the code, the specifications, and the systems, or as they're called in the building code, design listings and manufacturer's installation instructions. So D, design, the building code communicates to the specifier, the architect, design professional, to specify the appropriate standards and the appropriate installation process for fire stopping. That comes through the specs directed by the building code. The construction documents, of which the specifications are a part of, communicate those requirements to the contractor, general contractor, and then also to the what the specification calls the installer. The installer refers to the company, not necessarily the person with the tools. But the D design is the first part of the DIIM quality process. The DIIM quality process, when it comes to the building codes, I'm not going to spend time on this today, but just know that the building codes in Chapter 7 of the International Building Code, Chapter 7 of the Fire Code, Chapter 8 of NFPA 500101, you'll find fire resistance. You'll also find it in the National Building Code of Canada and the UAE Fire and Life Safety Code of Practice. The I for installation is huge. From a Firestop perspective, we need to make sure that the systems are selected properly, the systems are analyzed properly, there's some self-inspection by the contractor, and that the FCIA member FM and UL contractors are used, and the Master Certificate of Compliance might get used as well. Let's take a second to talk about this Master Certificate of Compliance. The new program from UL and ULC. And what the program does is provides a field audit of the management system on a specific project for a small fee. The Firestop contractor that's UL qualified can contract with UL for them to do the audit of their management system for that specific site and then issue a certificate to the Firestop contractor. The Firestop contractor can then use that as their proof source that the Firestop has been installed to their management system. Companies or organizations like maybe Oshpod might like it for their hospitals. Maybe the State of Illinois Department of Public Health wants it for the hospitals here. Maybe the Civil Defense in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates, and in Qatar wants to use it to prove that the fire stopping was done and the management system of the Firestop contractor was used as well. That certificate is only issued by the Firestop contractor. What's the first thing we do from the Firestop contractor's perspective? Not me personally, but the Firestop contractor members of the FCIA. What do? They spend time. They spend time on systems analysis and systems selection. The systems analysis is something that's huge and has to be knowledge that's in the Firestop contractor personnel from top to bottom. Understanding how those systems work, whether you're the worker, the estimator, the superintendent, the foreman of the workforce on the project site. If there's no understanding of the systems and the listings, there's no respect for them. The respect for them is that our manufacturer members have invested millions of dollars on listings, tested and listed systems. And if people don't respect them, guess what? We don't know if that Firestop will work because it might have been installed completely incorrectly. Systems, listings are what the FCIA member FM and UL contractors are all about. There's a whole bunch of products that have been made by our manufacturer partners. The FCIA has a 4-hour program that analyzes the DIIM of firestopping and includes advantages and disadvantages of all these different types of products, along with the listings analysis that goes on with those products. A 4-hour program. That 4-hour program, believe it or not, we can do extend it to a 1.5 day program. The FCIA announced a program at its Firestop Industry Conference and Trade Show in November 2019 that a 1.5 day education program will start taking place in 2020 with the exams offered at the end of it. But all these different types of products invented by the manufacturers are all to be installed according to the International Building Code and NFPA's codes to the manufacturer's installation instructions and the listings. So simply having a product data sheet on a job site isn't going to get the job done. The inspection agency, building owner and manager, general contractor, really only has to ask one key question to know whether or not the Firestop contractor, whoever is installing, the Firestop installation contractor, whoever that is, they have to ask one question to that Firestop installation contractor, whether it's electrical, plumbing, mechanical, or a company that is doing the complete Firestop scope of work. And that question is, where are the listings and the manufacturer's installation instructions and the life safety drawings? Those three pieces are needed to understand how to put in firestopping. If none of those are on the job site and all that's there is product being installed, then there is no Firestop system that has been installed. Products are one thing, listings are the other. There is no such thing as a rated Firestop product. It's a rated Firestop system that's been installed to the listing and the manufacturer's installation instructions. So what do we look for? We look for the listings on the left to match them to the picture on the right. This very simple picture on the right-hand side shows on the left-hand side of the picture shows white insulated penetrating item along with a BX conduit. The listing on the left side doesn't show any insulated penetrating item. So guess what? We've already violated our first listing and cannot provide a Firestop system based on the listing that's sitting there. So the FCIA's Firestop Manual of Practice covers all of these things as far as its analytical education to contractors, specifiers, manufacturers, reps, and others that use the document. How do you select a system? How do you analyze it? First things first, understand what the assembly is. And the assembly is a big deal. The assembly can be something that's in the listing, such as a concrete wall, concrete block wall, wallboard assembly, gypsum wallboard assembly with metal stud backup, or with wood studs, depending on the fire resistance rating for that. We'll go into where to find those in a few seconds. Then what's the thickness of that assembly? What are the penetrating items, and are there any coverings? Is it a single penetrating item or multiple penetrating items? What's the size, type, and thickness of those penetrating items? And the size, type, and thickness of the pipe coverings, penetrating item coverings. What's the annular space size, the gap, if you will, or the breach size? So a breach was made in a wall or a floor assembly, and the annular space would be what's left after you put the penetrating item in. Then, what are the joint or gap sizes? The same exercise that we use to figure out penetrating items is also used for joints, whether they're head of wall, bottom of wall, or perimeter fire containment systems. Once we understand the sizes, then we can figure out the systems and listings and figure out which backing, fill materials, and other materials are used to create that Firestop system. How do these systems become systems? Well, they're tested at a laboratory. The system selection and analysis, everyone looks at Firestop and says it's easy, just put a bunch of caulk around something and off you go. It's not as easy as it looks. It requires somebody with a brain to understand how that UL directory works, how the FM approval guide works, and how the Intertech directory works, and the UL directory, of course. As far as selecting systems, our favorite thing to do is hit the UL Product IQ. That's what we do on Friday nights here. You have to sign up for it, put your name, email address, all that kind of thing. There are some paid services for it, but access to the directories is free. And then once you're at the Building Materials and Systems, you just click on that button. Guess what? Continuity head of walls, which is the non-rated roof to the fire resistance rated wall, fire dampers, electrical circuit integrity systems. Those are the endothermic mat products from two of the manufacturers that have those as well. Exterior wall systems for NFPA 285, a big deal after the Grenfell Tower in England. Fire doors, fire-rated roofs, walls, floors, beams, and columns. In the U400 section, we'd find fire resistance rated gypsum wallboard assemblies. Fire-rated roofs, walls, beams in Canada, grease ducts, ventilation ducts, structural steel in petrochemical facilities, so that'd be the UL 1709 time temperature curve, and of course, Firestop systems, joint systems, perimeter fire containment systems, roof deck constructions. Everything you want to know about fire resistance is right here. So clicking on Firestop systems, if we look at a system number, I think I had C-AJ-8083 up in the screen. It's a STI system for a multiple penetrating item. And I'm not going to spend tons of time on the analysis. All I'm going to say is, first things first, what's the fire resistance rating? What's the T rating for temperature rating? How long does it take for the penetrating item to heat up 325 degrees above ambient on the non-fire side? So on the floor, it'd be above it. On the wall, it'd be on the non-fire side. What's the L rating, air leakage rating? To simulate smoke moving in an assembly or moving in a building through assemblies. Then we'll figure out what's that wall made out of. This one's either concrete block or precast concrete. Penetrating items, how many, what type? It says one or more pipes or tubes, and then the annular space is specified in the design as well, from 0 to a 2-inch max. It will also tell us that the space between the pipes shall be a minimum 1/4 and a maximum 2 inches. So if you get in the field and find out that these penetrating items are touching, guess what? We've got the wrong system. We've got to go find another system. Then it'll talk about the type of pipe covering that's available or able to be used along with the Firestop system. All of this has to be understood before we've got ourselves a Firestop system. How do people get trained? How do companies get trained? Most of the manufacturers have invested tons of dollars in their personnel in the field, training people to install their products. Think of the millions and millions of people that install penetrating items, electric companies, low voltage electric, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, communications, high voltage, other cabling companies, hydronic piping, plumbing piping. There could be about 20 different construction discipline employees installing Firestops. It's a multiple million person education program. So some of the manufacturers train people for half-hour, an hour, 2, 4, 8, or 12-hour programs. But there are other programs available where a specialist Firestop contractor, we hope an FCIA member in good standing, gets themselves FM 4991 approved, UL qualified. There are third-party management system programs, where an individual has to pass an exam from UL or FM. The knowledge comes from the FCIA Firestop Manual of Practice, from the listings. All the different manufacturers' products are covered in a generic fashion, meaning you don't need a card from 10 different manufacturers, although we do, as an FCIA, recommend that the manufacturer also provide education to the workers and education of the company. The company gets approved or qualified, and the individual winds up becoming a designated responsible individual inside the company that manages the program. A little different program than what you would see in a typical certification type application. The FM and UL Firestop Contractor programs have 4 parts. Somebody at the company, number 3, has to study the FCIA Firestop Manual of Practice, study the UL Qualified Contractor Program, the FM Approval Guide, and the FM 4991 Standard, depending on which exam you're taking, and then pass an exam at 80% or better. They become a DRI, a designated responsible individual, if they're employed by the approved or qualified contractor firm. The DRI designation doesn't go to the person until such time as that company gets approved or qualified. After a person takes the exam and they write a management system for the company, and they do a couple of projects on that management system, they can get a office facility quality management system audit. In addition to that, there's an audit that takes place at a job site. It's not an inspection, it's an audit where someone visits the job site, audits the contractor, quality processes to make sure that throughout the company, the culture of the listing, the manufacturer's instructions is understood by all the people in the firm, and the philosophy is correct for installing fire stops. Annually, FM or UL comes and audits the company to make sure that they understand what the heck they're doing. What's in the management system? In the management system are the following types of things. What is the employee training and education from each level to make sure that people are fit for the purpose of installing fire stopping, estimating it, supervising it, and more. How does the firm handle system selection, systems analysis? How do you communicate those systems to the field? What material controls are there so that the material doesn't wind up being expired? Most materials, fire stop sealants, sprays, and other types of materials have a shelf life. That shelf life has to be tracked by the contractor to make sure they put in material that is within its expiration, before its expiration. Labeling. If the company uses labeling, and if specified, for instance, the FM 4991 specification, if an architect wants FM labels with an FM logo on them, the contractor has to follow a specific protocol. Numbered labels, so that there's control, understanding which project got which label. And then it's audited as part of their quality management process. How they keep records, 7 years is the requirement. And then how do they keep records of their variances? Variances meaning deviations or non-conformances. And then how do they document their installations? So there's an as-built documentation passed on to the general contractor, so it becomes the building owner and manager's inventory of fire resistance, and of course closing out the project. There's some benefits to the FM or UL program, to the building owner manager, to the specifier. We know that the Firestop system process has been done properly because the management system has been audited by a third-party independent entity. The manufacturer is not the third-party independent entity. Why? Because there's an economic relationship between the manufacturer who wants to sell products and the contractor who wants to buy and install. The FM and UL companies don't really have a vested interest, economic interest, in the Firestop contractors. The program verifies that the management system works. It verifies the communication from the office to the field and back, and really instills a measure of quality to the company. The company does appoint a DRI, designated responsible individual. That person does pass the exam in order to become a DRI. Plus, they have to keep CEUs. They're retested every 3 years if they don't keep enough CEUs, and there's one DRI for every contractor location. For continued satisfactory performance, documented archive record keeping that's mandated by the program, employee training that's audited. Does it work? Is it done? How's it tracked by the company? A job site visit by FM or UL, not a inspection, and then a DRI that verifies that things are moving along nicely. I talked about the Master Certificate of Compliance. This is a new program from UL that's been introduced over the last year. There's quite a few of these certificates that have been issued for Firestop contractors throughout North America. We believe this is going to be a very good program for the building owner because it's annually renewable. And the reason is the 2018 International Fire Code has a requirement for the building owner and manager to provide an annual visual inspection. UL is providing an annual visual inspection of some type in this. They know that if they've visited and audited this project site, if there's been additional breaches in those fire resistance rated assemblies, the UL people can see it. They report it to the building owner and manager, who then brings in their Firestop contractor to fix that breach in the penetration in the fire resistance rated assembly. Why is it important to have qualified contractors, approved contractors? This Firestop stuff isn't easy. I put up one listing, and it had all kinds of fine print about the spacing between the penetrating items, about the annular space between the penetrating items and the side of the assembly. 0 to like 2 inches was the annular space max, and then a minimum separation between those penetrating items. Those that don't respect the listings really don't care. They're not going to look at all the annular space sizes, the gap sizes, the breach sizes. They're not going to understand what the FTH and L and W ratings are. They're not going to understand that penetrating items might move and they should have products that are compatible with that. It might be chemical exposure for those products, and how do we make sure compatibility of that? Do they look at the safety data sheets to understand whether or not there are storage limitations, application limitations, curing temperatures? The FM and UL contractors do all that. Inspection is the second I in the program. The FCIA, let's back up a second. On the FM and UL programs, the FCIA worked with FM approvals and UL to build these two programs. Why? Because we wanted to have the installed listings and manufacturer's installation instructions, the installed systems, so that they work at the end of the day. We then wanted to make sure with inspection that there was a quality check on the contractors, all of them, including the FCIA member, FM approved, UL qualified contractors. We're very pleased that these two standards were added to the International Building Code in the 2009 cycle for the 2012 International Building Code. The FCIA was the code proponent to put those in. It took us almost 10 years to get it into the building code. The standard 2174 was developed in 2001, published, and it took us to 2012 to get it in. Where did they come from in the first place? The FCIA had a conference in San Antonio in 2000. During the conference, several of the FCIA members asked a question of Mike Pfeiffer, then with the International Code Council, now the ICC's Senior Vice President of Codes. Hey, Mike, how come there's no special inspection for fire stopping like there is for fireproofing? He said, do you have a standard, and did you put it in the code? This is your code. Go develop a standard, then do a code proposal, and get it into the code. So that's where the ASTM E2174-2393 standards originated. We then worked with our manufacturer partners at ASTM to build them. We then went to International Accreditation Services in 2008 to build a quality program for the inspection agency companies that included an inspector qualification in it. As part of the inspector qualifications for the IASA C291, the inspection agency can hire people that have passed the FMU exam, the UL Firestop exam, or the International Firestop Council Firestop exam. We believe that either FM or UL Firestop exam and the International Firestop Council exams are needed. And the reason why is because the IFC exam focuses heavily on inspection, and the FCIA's work with FM and UL has both of those exams focused on inspection as well as installation. How does this work? Why is inspection needed? It's needed because of the way the market is currently organized. Currently, it's a bit of a free-for-all as to the installation of Firestop products. He or she who pokes the hole fills it happens all too often on projects, probably 40% of the time, maybe up to 50% depending on who you talk to. The second method is the Firestop contractor installs, and then several of the construction industry disciplines do. Third way is a single source Firestop contractor that's an FCIA member in good standing and UL qualified or FM 4991 approved. Here's what happens when you're not FM, UL, or FCIA members. These are pictures taken by some friends up in Canada. Affinity Firestop Consultants are good friends up there. But take a look at what's here. It's just, packing tape. A restricting collar, a pipe device, obviously, call it a plastic pipe device, call it whatever you want to call it. It's not even installed properly. It's installed upside down, angular space isn't right, it's not anchored. What a mess. More tape. There's no such thing as a scab patch, as they call them, where gypsum wallboard is simply screwed to another piece of gypsum wallboard and then a bunch of tape put around a plastic pipe. Mineral wool showing through spray. The spaghetti method of installing sealant. Crazy stuff. Real fire stops look like this, professionally installed with the appropriate backing material, a spray of the thickness that's listed in the listing, and then maybe a label on top of it as well. Take a look at this one. Certainly this is a very laborious way to install fire stops. There are other methods using some of the fire cans that might be more competitive, but just know that there's a lot of detail that goes into installing fire stop systems. Take a look at the composite sheet and how it's anchored. Note the Firestop sealant that's taking care of the flutes in the metal deck. The listing would say it would be okay to install Firestop systems on top of that SFRM fireproofing as well. Whether it's insulated penetrating items or what, the inspection process is to make sure that the Firestop contractor did it successfully. When measuring sealants, for instance, the International Firestop Council has said that when measuring sealant thicknesses in destructive testing, that shrinkage has to be taken into account. In the ASTM standards, we were able to get a reference to this in the 2018 version of ASTM E2174. I have a proposal in for the E2393 to make sure that the sealant thicknesses are measured appropriately at the right place. The measuring tape in the right-hand side shows the measurement at the wrong place. So does the measurement of the measuring tape in the lower left-hand side. The measuring tape should be measuring the thickness of Firestop sealant at the far right side of that little sample on the bottom left. It needs to measure the thickness of sealant at the bond lines where it touches the penetrating item and touches the assembly itself. Firestop systems inspection is mandatory based on the Chapter 17 of the International Building Code, where it specifies E2174 and E2393. There's some qualifications for the inspector firm and the inspectors both in the ASTM E2174-2393. Both of them call for independence of the Firestop inspector and the inspection firm. The inspection firm cannot be, is supposed to be divested from the installing company, the distributor, manufacturer, competitor, or supplier, and not a competitor. Go figure. What do you think the inspection would be like if they're a competitor of the firm that's there? And then again, the individuals for the IAS AC291 need to pass exams. This is not a mandatory code item. It's something that's in specifications and something we hope comes more in specifications. And the reason is we believe that the companies that have invested in the IAS AC291 have gone the extra mile to prove their competency as an organization. that they have a quality process in place, along with individual competencies, people that are inspecting that all have passed the exams. In the ASTM 2174-2393, there's a pre-construction meeting, there's observation or destructive testing, and there's a report. Key thing that the inspection agency cannot do is supervise. What's supervision? Supervision is when the inspection agency starts choosing the listings, the systems for the Firestop contractor. In our opinion, that's supervision and out of the scope of the Firestop inspection agency. Let's talk about maintenance. The fire codes mandate that fire stopping and fire resistance completely be managed and maintained. This is something that we think gets missed in buildings. How do we know? All I have to do is walk in my building downstairs and open the door to the parking garage, look up at the penetrating items that caused a breach in the wall assembly that's fire resistance rated, and know that maybe there's a little bit of a skim coat of mortar on it or some mineral wool that's hanging out the side of it, to know that maybe the continuity might not be there. Maintenance is required. Barrier management helps the building owner and manager comply with the fire codes. NFPA 1 and NFPA 101, the International Fire Code, all have minimum requirements for a frequency of maintaining that structure. Take a look at NFPA 1. NFPA 1, the fire code, National Fire Code, has a section in Chapter 12, 12.3.2, that outlines quality assurance for penetrations and joints. Where did that come from? The FCIA's Bill Koffel worked at NFPA and worked with our code committee to come up with the language that you see here. And what it says is, in new buildings, so new construction, 3 stories or greater in height, a quality assurance program for the installation of devices and systems installed to protect penetration and joints shall be prepared and monitored by the registered design professional. What's the quality assurance program? I just laid it out. It's the ASTM E 2174-2393 inspection and the FM 4991 UL qualified FCIA member contractor. That's a quality assurance program for those devices and systems. In 12.3.3, for maintaining existing buildings, it talks about that those buildings and their fire resistance rated assemblies, fire barriers, walls, exterior walls, fire resistive requirements based on type of construction, and get this, roof covering shall be maintained, properly repaired, restored, replaced where damaged, altered, breached, penetrated, removed, or improperly installed. The improperly installed is huge. Why? Because for the building owner and manager, this improperly installed means that although the inspector might have walked through the building, and when I say inspector, I'm talking about the jurisdictional inspector. The inspection agency inspector is a different inspector. The jurisdictional inspector that issues the certificate of occupancy is not considered the quality control agent for the general contractor. That's the general contractor's job and the building owner and manager's job to hire the right general contractor to make sure that the GC hires the right subcontractors to get the building built properly. This improperly installed puts the onus on the building owner and manager to make sure that whatever was delivered to them is actually correct. That's why you might see more commissioning of buildings, for instance, including the fire resistance rated assemblies. 12.3.2 says wherever required, gypsum wallboard shall be repaired, replaced, or return to the required level of fire resistance using a listed repair system or materials and method equivalent to the original construction. Original construction means there's a certain spacing of studs, fastening pattern for the complete gypsum wallboard. So that means remove that complete panel of gypsum wallboard, 4 feet by 8 feet, 4 feet wide, 8 feet tall, and then put a new one on. There are patching methods that are recommended by the Gypsum Association. You'll find that in GA 225, the Gypsum Association's publication number 225. There's a method for patching holes in fire resistance rated assemblies. That patching method has a step-by-step way to handle that repair. We'll get into that during another FCIA webinar later on. Then it says where readily accessible, inspect in high-rise buildings every 3 years for the integrity. But in 12.3.3.2, it's saying maintain the fire resistance regardless of building height. And then in 12.3.3.1, NFPA 1 is saying in all buildings, maintain and make sure you keep the fire resistance rating of the assemblies wherever it's been breached by whatever. Then take a look at the language in NFPA 101. It talks about continuous maintenance of the applicable fire resistance requirements in the NFPA 101. So 2 NFPA documents, both of them want continuous fire resistance maintained continuously. Onto the International Fire Code 2015 says the same thing. And look at the language that's in bold. That's not in the code bolded, it's bolded for emphasis. But this same language is also in NFPA 1. So present this to your building owner clients and let them know that they might have a risk in their buildings where if the fire resistance is not maintained, there's liability possibly to them if there's loss of life or loss of property. How's it found? The forensic sciences are quite good and they can know whether or not the fire stop was installed properly, if at all. In the 2018 International Fire Code, there's a new requirement for the owner to maintain an inventory of all of their fire resistance rated and smoke resistant construction, which would be fire resistance rated walls and floors, fire dampers, rolling and swinging fire doors and their frames, fire rated glazing and their frames, as well as the fire stopping, every bit of it. And then take a look at the language that's in italics. Inspected by the owner annually. Does that mean that the building owner has to do it themselves? Nope, they can hire whoever they want to do that. Somebody that's a UL qualified contractor, an FM 4991, an FCIA member contractor. Any of those organizations and their employees working for those organizations can be hired by the building owner to survey the building. And then they have to, again, properly repair, restore, replace where damaged, altered, breached, or penetrated. National Fire Code of Canada is a different code. It's a performance-based code. And rather than talk about fire resistive construction, it talks about fire separations in the fire separation section. Fire separations are what the Canadians call fire barriers. A fire separation might or might not have a fire resistance rating, but it's supposed to maintain or resist the passage of smoke, whether it's rated or not. What does that mean? At a minimum, in a non-rated assembly, smoke and sound sealant. As soon as that assembly is fire resistance rated, then we're jumping to an L-rated Firestop system. Some cautious contractors might also use L-rated Firestop systems even in non-rated assemblies. Why? Because it provides a quantified value, and the testing for that L rating is done on a wall that is not at the fire test. It's a separate chamber, separate thing without fire exposure. It's only smoke exposure or air leakage exposure. So what the Canadian Code says about damage to fire separations is when they're damaged, to affect their integrity, they shall be repaired so that the integrity is maintained. Doesn't give you do this every 2 years, every 3 years, every 6 years. It says maintain it, period. A performance-based code. FCIA in its Firestop Manual of Practice has an appendix on barrier management. The FCIA website has a link that will take you to FCIA's Barrier Management Symposiums. That education program is an 8-hour session with each individual discipline broken out into 3 20-minute sections. 3 20-minute sections for fire stopping, 3 20-minute sessions for fire-rated glazing, and all the rest of features of fire resistance. If you want to take a look at the Barrier Management Symposium, hop on FCIA.org, click on the Barrier Management Symposium page, and then there's a link that'll get you to the videos. They're free for you to go look at, just have to sign up to watch. And they're a great thing to watch, a great way to train your staff about barrier management. And if you're a building owner, it gives you a great education too to judge those contractors that be looking at the barriers and all the different pieces that are there. Barrier management's an important piece. It starts at new construction. We saw in NFPA 1 that the building owner or manager is responsible for improperly installed things. So therefore, somebody's got to verify that the systems were put in properly. An FM 4991 UL qualified contractor will provide documentation to the building owner and manager from which they can start their maintenance program. The new construction specification also needs to communicate to the building owner what gets communicated to the building owner from the general contractor. In new buildings, new construction, we strongly urge that single source 078400 specification. Why have 4 different sections where you talk about one discipline? To the building owner, they're maintaining the continuity of the barrier. They're not treating a penetration of a plumbing penetration. They're not treating an electrical penetration. They're maintaining the fire resistance of the barrier through the breach that was created to install that penetrating item. It's not about the penetrating item, it's about the breach. Therefore, we believe the systems are the focus of the assembly. Certainly products are important and their physical characteristics are also important, but the listings are the most important thing to make sure that the fire resistance is maintained. And we also hope that they specify a single manufacturer to the greatest extent possible so that the building owner or manager doesn't have to keep an inventory of tons of different products. In Part 2, under installer qualifications, an FCIA member in good standing, the FM 4991, the UL Qualified Firestop Contractor Program, and of course we want the manufacturer education as well. Both are needed in order to provide a good Firestop installation. We also believe both inspection and also installation quality are needed. That's why the IAS AC 291 and somebody that's passed the exams, FM and UL Firestop exams, or the and the International Firestop Council exam. Part 3 has the mandated code mandated special inspection in it. And then in Division 1, we recommend that the specifier in 017839 project record documents refer back up to the 078400 specification so that handoff of Firestop listings, manufacturer's installation instructions, and listings gets passed off to the building owner and manager. Huge thing to make sure it takes place. So in 017839, reference up to the divisions where fire resistance is. Division 7 for the fire stops, and then all the rest of the features of fire resistance. The gypsum wall assembly, concrete block wall assembly, concrete assembly, the fire damper, the fire-rated doors, and the fire-rated glazing. Each of those needs to have a spec in it, that a reference that talks about the project record documents required. And it's the same for all. Manufacturer's instructions, listings, life safety drawings. Life safety drawings are going to have the fire resistance rated walls and horizontal assemblies. So it's a single package. And then each of the individual fire resistance packages has to have the same thing. In the fire dampers, for instance, the installation instructions incorporate the listings, so no separate listing is required there. When it comes to barrier management inventory elements, I've been talking about the various pieces that are required to be kept by the fire code. This is all stuff that can be kept electronically. Many of the FCIA member Firestop contractors are also barrier management services contractors. Some of them have developed custom barrier management programs that will track the barrier maintenance and make sure that there's an ability to control the documentation and retrieve it when the fire marshal wants it. Key things for our Firestop contractor members, for our manufacturers and architects who are on the call, make sure you advise your clients that they ought to create a budget to meet code requirements for fire resistance. Ask the building owner if they've got a budget for sprinkler systems. They'll say yes. Ask them if they've got a budget for the alarm system maintenance. They'll say yes. Ask them if they have a fire resistance budget, and they'll say, what? That's exactly what you want to say back to them is, no, I meant fire resistance, not what. We meant the inventory that's required by the 2018 and 2021 International Fire Code is something that you should consider, Mr. Building Owner, Ms. Building Owner and Manager. Consider building that inventory and maintaining it just like you do all the other safety systems in the building. So in an hour, I've covered the proper design, installation, inspection, and maintenance of fire stopping. I've got it all in a circle because each of these pieces is the quality process. A professional specifier, installation by companies that understand the installation process for fire stopping, inspected by those that understand the philosophy of systems and listings also, and then also maintenance to the International Fire Code. Know that effective compartmentation is a system, and know that it all has to work together in order to provide the appropriate fire resistance. A couple other key things. There's been a lot of talk in the industry recently about cross-laminated timber, the tall wood buildings that you might have seen in the magazines are starting to become a reality. The FCIA was ahead of this in 2015 by taking a tour of the National Research Council of Canada's Almont laboratory, where a lot of the fire testing took place for these assemblies. We then had the National Research Council of Canada speak on the topic in 2017, 18, and look for more conversations about it in 2019 and 20. We know that the manufacturers are starting to test for this cross-laminated timber, and I'm sure now that it's in the International Building Code that a tall wood building can take place, it's also in the National Building Code of Canada, there'll be listings that show up. Our manufacturer partners probably were not going to invest in cross-laminated timber until it was allowed to be built by the building code. Not really a return on their investment if there's no, if that building type is not allowed. So look for them to be working their tails off to test and come up with systems for that cross-laminated timber. There's also been discussion in the industry about archaic assemblies. Walk through an old hospital and you'll find gypsum pyro bar, gypsum block. You'll find clay tile block, hollow core. You'll find assemblies that might have been tested in the 1920s, but we don't know where the documentation is. There's a study going on currently that has been going on for quite some time actually to try and find a way to simplify the process for engineering judgments for this particular archaic assembly program. There's a lot to discuss in it. Know that your FCIA leadership met with the manufacturers in November to talk about possible solutions for this. That's why you're seeing a lot of articles in the various manufacturers' electronic blasts, is because we've all had conversations, and they're trying to get the information out, which is a really good thing, frankly. Look for more on that here shortly. At this point, we'll wrap up the program and try to get to the many questions that have come in over the last hour or so. Again, a big thanks for those that have been on the call. The FCIA does post these PowerPoint presentations in the open and free area to see them, so they're not buried behind the members only section. You don't have to be a member to get to them. Reason why we do this is because we know the architects, specifiers, building code officials want to be able to get to the PDFs of these presentations. The only thing we put behind the curtain, if you will, is the recording of this session. We record them and then we post them at fcia.org in the members only section. So the questions that have come up so far, finally, you'll get a certificate from the FCIA within the next 3 weeks. so 15 business days, you'll see a certificate coming of attendance for as long as you're on this call. So I've answered the first question, are we going to have a PDF copy of the presentation? Yes, absolutely. FCIA.org is where you'll find it. Secondly, is there anything in the manual that the separation between Firestop systems is the manufacturer's specification or is it somewhere else? So, in the FCIA Firestop Manual of Practice, we don't specify what the separation of penetrating items is. We state in the Manual of Practice to follow the listing that shows the separation. The listing is where that's located. So when I took you to the UL directory and it showed a separation, that listing is going to define what the separation between penetrating items is and what the separation between the assembly and the penetrating items are as well. Good question. Thanks for asking it. Next question is, how are you verifying that the people at the AHJ are adequately educated? That's a great question. The FCIA has been on a education roll for 20 years. The best education, the best way we've been able to get to the building officials and others is through the FCIA webinars, because that allows those organizations to stay in their office and take a look at what's going on. I mentioned earlier that the authority having jurisdiction is not the quality control organization for the building owner and manager and the general contractor. There are certain jurisdictions where authorities having jurisdiction think that fire stopping is really incredibly important and they focus on it. Just like any other industry, any other discipline. You know, there are some building officials that focus on fire alarms, maybe some that focus on sprinkler systems more than other things, but some focus on fire stop systems heavily and effective compartmentation. As an association, we've been outreaching to the building code officials also through the International Code Council. Over the last 15 years, we've spoken probably once every 3 years at the ICC annual convention. The International Code Council is where the building officials membership is. We offer a free manual of practice to building officials, fire marshals on PDF. All they have to do is request it. And we've circulated not just to building officials, but to the specifiers, building officials, and fire marshals, a couple of thousand of these in the last several years. Good question. Thank you. Next question is, do I still get a certificate if you started late? Yep, not to worry. Next question. I'm being told that some municipalities are no longer accepting engineering judgments and must have tested and listed assemblies. That's a good question. Is the FCIA aware of this, it says, and is it increasing? We have heard through our member contractor companies and inspection agency companies that more and more municipalities want listed designs only. This trend actually started in 1994. Cook County Hospital here in Chicago, a great big hospital replacement project. The specifier said to the manufacturers of fire stopping, no engineering judgments, 1994. There were a lot less systems in the UL directory at that time, the FM approval guide, the Intertech directory. Yet he wanted all listed systems. It was a big project, so therefore the manufacturers reacted and tested a few of the odd type assemblies. For instance, there was a fire resistance rated corridor that was 4 hours. That corridor was being made out of gypsum wallboard assemblies, and nobody had a listing for it. Guess what? That project, because the architect held his spec and said, nope, I want a system, many of the manufacturers went to the testing laboratories and burned an assembly to prove that they have a listing for it. We do think that's a trend. We also do know that our manufacturer partners are working like crazy to test at UL and other locations, Thomas Bell Wright in the Middle East, Intertech here in Texas, FM Approvals in Boston, and in Johnston, Rhode Island. We know the manufacturers are testing like crazy to try to build up an inventory of listings that covers the whole building. We also know that there's work going on at UL along with the manufacturers to try to come up with a program that regulates the process of developing engineering judgments to bring more credibility to them so that they might be accepted. Is that the right answer? The right answer really is maybe. The manufacturers of Firestopping sending their technical crew out with many contractors throughout the world, figuring out the listings to test that are not in their current inventory and find out what's out there, see what's common, and then test that stuff to come up with listings that cover just about everything. If the number of engineering judgments is reduced significantly, maybe that no EJs goes away. Archaic assemblies is one way to do that. That's why we're having a conversation with the International Firestop Council and the manufacturers individually to figure out how can we reduce the number of EJs with archaic assemblies. If the penetrating items have already been tested in fire resistance rated assemblies, like gypsum wallboard, how can that approximate plaster? We don't know yet. We don't have anything yet from those that are declaring that the fire resistance ratings are there, and that if there's enough depth of wall assembly to approximate what was used in the gypsum assembly, that it's the same. We don't have any of that. That's not allowed currently, but we're looking at that to try to reduce the number of EJs in existing buildings and new construction. Good question. So next question that came up is somebody took the FM or UL Firestop exam, passed the first exam, did not pass the second exam. Can they get a DRI certificate based on CEUs? And the answer is that's FM and UL that control those two exams. To my knowledge, the answer would be no. They want you to pass that second half of the exam. If you're located in the Middle East, I'll be in Doha in about 2 weeks. I'll be in Dubai in about 3.5 weeks to conduct education sessions for the FM and UL Firestop exams, and having some education meetings as well for civil defense, architects, specifiers, engineers, and of course our FCIA Firestop contractor members. If you're over in that region, feel free to register at fcia.org, register for the sessions, and I'll look forward to seeing you in person. Happy to spend a lot of time on system selection and systems analysis. Good question. So another question came in. How does the International Building Code deal with inspector qualifications? That's a great question. Let me pull up the International Building Code to help answer that question. In Chapter 17 of the International Building Code, there are two different approvals of the inspector required. One is that the company the inspector works for, the agency, has to be approved. The agency in 1703.1.1 has to be independent, objective, competent from the contractor responsible for the work being inspected. Then the agency has to disclose any conflicts. That lays out the independence clause very, very, very clearly. Secondly, the approved agency's got to have equipment to perform the required tests. And third, they've got to have experienced personnel educated in conducting, supervising, and evaluating tests and the special inspections. This is right out of the 2018 International Building Code, Chapter 17. Moving up, then the building official has to approve that. Down to the next page, there's also special inspector qualifications required as well. I'm going to blow this up and make it look bigger so that everyone can see it. But take a look at the special inspector qualifications. So it says that the special inspector has to have experience or training considered to be relevant, where the documented experience or training is related in complexity to the same type of special inspection for projects of similar complexity. So the building code, International Building Code, doesn't require a certification. It requires competency and relevant experience, as you see here in sentence number 4, competency and relevant experience or training of the special inspectors who will perform the work. And then the training's got to be relevant to Firestop systems. And it's got to be, they've got to have experience, documented experience or training in the same complexity, same type of special inspection. So if it's a hospital, which is really quite complex, they should have some hospital experience or something that's similar in complexity to it. The competency is proven through taking the FM or UL Firestop exam or the International Firestop Council IFC exam. Those exams prove competency in firestopping. The FM and UL Firestop exam have 2 sections. One is about the philosophy of firestopping, that it's a listing and a system support. The second piece actually tests whether the person can select and analyze Firestop systems. That one's the hardest one for people to pass. And the reason why is because not everybody gets the listings and knows how to analyze them. It's not that hard, really, when studied and when taught. But many don't take the time to understand the listings. For instance, I can go buy a tube of Firestop sealant at Home Depot or Ace Hardware, anywhere I want to go. On the shelf is the tube of sealant. Nowhere on that shelf does it show me that there's a listing required to install this product, other than on the tube in the fine print in the back of it. It says refer to the UL directory to find the listing to install this stuff. That's why there's so much in this special inspector qualification section, 1704.2.1 in the International Building Code for Special Inspection Agencies. Great question. Thank you so much for asking that. Other things about inspection in the ASTM E2174-2393 standards, there is a section on Firestop inspector qualifications. That's over here in section 6 of the ASTM E2174-2393, and it talks about the inspector meeting the criteria in practice E699 and then having a minimum of 2 years experience in construction field inspections. There is also an ASTM E3037 or 3038, which is the inspector qualification system at ASTM. Currently, that standard has a flaw in it because it confuses the inspector and the company. It doesn't direct the individual to take an exam. It says company takes an exam, one person maybe, on and on and on. It's not currently ready for prime time in our opinion. It exists, it's out there, it's something that the an AHJ can use to qualify that inspection agency inspector. Good question. So looking at the questions, I don't see anything else coming up on the question board. I've covered all the questions that have come in. So I'll ask the audience, do you have further questions? Happy to answer any questions that come up. Do you have any questions going once? Do you have any questions going twice? Any questions going 3 times? Well, seeing no questions, on behalf of the Firestop Contractors International Association, thank you for being part of this webinar. We appreciate everyone taking some time out of their busy schedule to cover a topic that's dear to our heart, the FCIA's proper design, installation, inspection, and maintenance of fire stopping, this executive summary, if you will. Look for continued presentations, webinars on various topics as the year goes on with FCIA. On behalf of all of us, the Board of Directors and membership, thank you for being part of the program. For those that are members, thanks for your membership, because your dues help pay for us to do what we do, to advocate on behalf of the association and on behalf of the industry at the International Code Council, NFPA, ASTM, our civil defense over in various parts of the world, and other authorities having jurisdiction, specifiers, architects, building officials, fire marshals, and others. We look forward to seeing you at the next event, whatever that is, and we appreciate everyone that's a member. If you're not a member, please join the FCIA. It's how we do what we do, is through your investment in the industry, through the dues that you pay. Thank you, everyone. Have yourself a great week and weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next installation of the FCIA webinar series. Thanks, everyone, and have a great week.